from Character Options in their Doctor Who line, this is the History of the Daleks box set number 1. As we talked about in the last video, the History of the Daleks line was basically we're going to give you 2 Daleks from every single major appearance of the Daleks so that we can finally get all the designs out there in toy form and you could have a shot at it. Nowadays, they're actually kind of hard to come by, at least some of them are. But there's a good few that you can still find pretty easily, such as this one. Also, it turns out I lied in the previous video. I thought the oldest one I had was box number 3. Turns out I had box number 1 just squirreled away in my storage room. Don't know how it got in there, but here it is. And these are supposed to represent how the Daleks first appeared in their very, very, very first story, that being the Daleks all the way back in the first season, the first series of Doctor Who. Taking a look at the box, I do love Character Options, like their new box design. I hate that we're not getting as many figures from them. I hate the figures that we are getting aren't as high quality as they used to be, but at least the box design is nice. And then on the back, pictures of the figures, a description of the episode, which is cool enough. But this is what I love. It's a description of the actual Dalek props, the history of these guys. For anyone who doesn't know, these are some of the most storied props in all of television history. I think these guys are still kicking around today in the BBC offices somewhere. So there were 4 original Daleks, and from those 4, they made it seem like there was an army of like 40 because, hey man, you worked with a budget back then. But that's enough gushing about boxes out of the way. Let's actually look at the figures inside now. And taking a look at our Daleks, don't get me wrong, if you're more used to New Who and the reboot series, these Daleks look very strange. But this is a almost perfect capturing of these original props. I love the silver and blue. It is such an eye-catching color scheme, and it really does help bring out the 60s-ness of this look. Alongside that, we do have a bit of articulation. You have a swivel at the head. Eye stalk goes up and down. The plunger goes up and down. The gun goes up and down. You have wheels here on the bottom, and then this one helps you steer. Weirdly enough, this is literally like how the wheels are set up on the actual costume/prop. Speaking of which, these guys are actually some of the only accurate classic Daleks because they have the right baseboard. Meanwhile, guys like our Chase Dalek has an incorrect baseboard, but that's more so that they can actually accommodate it being an action figure. Weirdly enough, the toy, well, I say weirdly enough, this is kind of the case a lot of the time, the toy looks better than the costume, at least for these newer Daleks. But while I had these guys in, when I first got this set, I really thought that this Dalek from the Chase was exactly the same, but you can look and see no. This is almost an entirely different figure. There's a different chest piece, the head is very slightly different, there's a different shade of blue throughout, but the most interesting and, dare I say, impressive change out of all of them is right there, the lights. So if you look at those little, here, let me get them closer, here we go. If you look at these little nubbins near the head, right? They changed that to be more accurate because these original Daleks, those are ping pong balls glued to the sides of the can. Whereas by the time of their third appearance, these were now light up little cups. So they even changed that detail. That was how slavish to these small, dare I say, nitpicks that Character Options was during their heyday. And it really does breathe life into this Dalek display that you can have such a diverse looking group despite them all having this telltale marks of the Daleks. Even though the general design hasn't changed all that much, it's the small things that got changed constantly over the decades. And these action figures are actually a pretty good way to keep track of those changes. Another thing I'll point out about these Daleks is just like the Chase 2-pack, they gave one the more narrow eye and one the bulkier eye so that they are distinct from each other just a little bit. But they also made the cardboard in the back of the box a piece of the set from the original show. This backdrop showed up a lot during the original Daleks. It is literally just a matte painting that they had to make it look like there was a massive hallway. And weirdly enough, it looks better for the toys than it does in the actual show. But if you zoom in just a little bit, right? That doesn't look bad. That's decent. Like, if you're into, like, toy photography or maybe doing stop motion videos, anything like that, that could work. Maybe if you like did some personal shading yourself, it would look even better. But kind of like the chase backdrop, it's not something. But kind of like the chase backdrop, it's not something I would personally keep, but it is something that does bring a little bit extra value to the pack and kind of would be great if you are, like I said, into that figure photography. Overall, I don't think I like these guys as much as the Chase 2 pack. I liked getting two much more distinct Daleks, but for representation of the original set of Daleks, these are near perfect. I adore them just like I adore most of the character options Daleks, and I could wholeheartedly recommend these because, hey, unlike most of these packs, this one still goes for pretty cheap. You could probably get it on eBay for like 20, 30 bucks. So if you're in the market for some Daleks, this is a really solid option.